And here we are again with Fair's Fair, only this time we're doing something really new. I'm going to be shooting fish in a barrel. That is, I'm going to be highlighting the specific problems with something that is just outright bad. There's no question on it, there's no attempt to argue, it is just outright bad. We will be talking about the absolute fucking mouthful of an anime. High school prodigies have it easy even in another world. It's an Isekai anime, so you know what? I'm not even going to sin the fact that they just kind of yada yada their way through getting to a new world. Voila, you're in a new world. But the gimmick of this one, not a particularly creative gimmick, but the gimmick nonetheless, is that each one of them is a high school prodigy of a particular field. And we're going to go through these people and just how much ridiculous stupidity is going on here from the least offensive to the most offensive. Or at least close to the least offensive to most offensive. Honestly, most offensive and most ridiculous character could be like a 5-way tie in this anime. But we'll start with the least offensive one. The super high school merchant. I guess that's a class in high school now. This man's incredibly good at manipulating economy and markets, and you don't have a huge amount of issues with him. He is stupidly knowledgeable for his age, and just super easily manipulates people around him, which kind of doesn't feel very balanced, but you know what? I'll let it slide because protagonist. And if he was the only protagonist, I'd actually, be okay with it. My problem here is that he's even more knowledgeable and more stupidly powerful than the guy who traveled around with Hollow in Spice and Wolf. Now, you might not think that's a particular problem, but the problem is that none of these people seem to have any major downsides. The guy traveling with Hollow, and therefore not the pretty girl in the anime, and therefore I forgot his name, occasionally lost. He suffered problems and setbacks. This dude walked into a completely foreign market with little to no knowledge about anything about what was worth what there, and immediately took the fuck over. Put massive titans out of business in seconds. The dude stepped on the scene and everyone bowed down. It was ridiculous. He didn't have any challenge there. I'd prefer to have seen him have a little bit of a challenge in his character arc, but you know what? Fuck it. I guess we're not doing that. Then you move on to the super high school journalist, because that's a high school thing. I know some high schools have newspapers, but I don't understand how you be a super journalist. There's a lot of points to journalism, but hers appears to be investigative journalism, because she was apparently raised by a clan of ninjas. No, I didn't make that up. And naturally, because she was raised by a clan of ninjas, she can disappear into thin air like fucking Naruto characters. Because that's something that works in reality. You know, in Naruto, they've got chakra and magic, and they can just yada yada through it. The people who have been sent to this world are very specifically not magic. In fact, that's one of the major points that the show actually managed to hammer in, was that none of these people can do magic. They are not magical. They have to rely solely on their skills that they have from another world. Which is normally an interesting limitation, but the problem is that that other world is supposed to be a normal-ass world. Why does this ninja girl seemingly have fucking jutsu? Last time I checked, they didn't come out of the Naruto dimension. Why the fuck can she teleport? Fucking do substitution jutsu. What the hell was the point of insisting that they can't do magic and they have to rely on normal people's skills that they have refined to hyper-high skill levels if you're just gonna give them magic anyway? So we've got two characters here, neither one of them seems to have any kind of downside, and it's a who's who of Gary Stews and Mary Sues in this whole anime, and that trend will continue. There is no challenge here. But then we move on to the science girl. She's a tiny little inventor girl who's got an adorable temperament. Honestly, super cute character. I fucking hate her. Not only is she carrying around a backpack that contains a sentient AI and multiple articulated robotic arms and supposedly some kind of fucking foundry, but she's doing it while being physically quite weak, apparently. That backpack has to weigh like 600 pounds, but she'll carry it around like it doesn't even matter. I guess it's fucking anti-gravity. And of course, noticing that most of their skills would be almost useless without modern technology, especially Mr. Politics, they decide that they're going to wow their world with their new technology, and so She miraculously is able to start purifying aluminum from the ground using only the contents of her backpack and some machinery she rigged off of an airplane. Bull fucking shit. I don't believe it. You will not convince me that she had all the required materials to start up a civilization available in her fucking backpack next to the goddamn sentient AI helper unit. And in addition to that, she was able to take the parts of an airplane and a fucking foundry, make an aluminum processing plant, supposedly drawing power from literally nowhere at this point. Then she built a nuclear fucking reactor. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not jumping ahead. I'm not skipping anything. There was no skip there. They went from, oh, I'm purifying aluminum out of the soil, to, I built a nuclear reactor in that cave over there. Jesus Christ. Where was Genius Superman Lolly when fucking Senku needed a goddamn vehicle? Again, she doesn't seem to have any downside. Her upside is so stupidly powerful that there's no way she could possibly be limited. Over the course of, well, it looked like about a season, or maybe a year. No, in fact, I don't even think it was a year. They went from, we crashed on this area and have no resources, to, I've built a nuclear reactor, I've constructed a factory, I built a semi-tractor trailer with a full display, fold-open stage, so we can display our wannabe god. I've started processing advanced materials and weaponry, I've constructed a massive hidden system of defense networks, and probably a radar grid, and oh yeah, we started building nukes. Like, we're not even halfway through the series and you've gone fucking nuclear! Not only is this a failure of her just being stupidly powerful, but dear lord, pacing, folks! You've gone from, oh, we're so downtrodden and have to utilize our skills carefully, to, we have nuclear fucking warheads. Nuclear warheads win. I don't care what kind of super magic you have to resist heat. Nuclear warhead wins. But yeah, it's ridiculous. At this point, we've only got 3 people introduced, and I'm already certain they could conquer the entire fucking planet. She could science her way up to anything, Merchant Guy could take over anything, and Journalist Girl is apparently a hyper-super investigator and a master of personality analysis. You've already won the world. You've already got so much hilarious amounts of power that there is no way you could lose. But it's okay, because we still have 4 characters left. Next we move on to our Magician Shota. Because we had a lolly, we needed a Shota too. That way we can get the girls off here too. He's apparently a super high school magician. I don't know. There's some weird-ass classes in Japan, I guess. I'm pretty sure that's not a class even in Japan, or even something you're taught in Japan, but I guess he completely mastered the art of all magic, even though there are people alive today who are 90 years old, doing it their entire life, who could still not be as good as him. And let's talk about as good as him. His magic is illusions. He's not really using magic. Until they decided he needed to do something. One of the first things he did to show how he was useful to the world was that he went out to distract the enemy by floating in front of them in the middle of a road, having his head levitate off and then float around them. Bull fucking shit. I don't believe that there's even a way for you to do such an illusion where your head comes off and floats around people while talking. I don't think it's possible, especially without using paid actors for your people. But no, not only did he manage that, but he was also flying while doing it, while his body was just existing there. Every flying trick that every magician does requires pre-setup. It requires wires, it requires setup. This man had no setup, and in a world without any kind of reliable technology, wire technology, or effective means to create anything that could hold his body weight and not be seen. And he just walked out there and performed the trick. And you can't just say, well, he's a really good illusionist. There's a difference between really good illusionist and doing things that are just fucking impossible. Here's the thing. If you tell me that someone's the best illusionist in the world, and he fucking sticks his hand into the ground, picks up the entire White House and hurls it into the sun, and we have verified by science that everything he just did, that is stick hand in ground, lift up White House, hurl it into the sun, snap his fingers, and it physically comes back. He's not an illusionist at that point. There was no illusion there. They performed magic. Real magic. This boy is supposedly not magical, yet what he did was actually impossible without literal magic. So the show broke its own rules and made yet another stupidly powerful character that just succeeds at things because I succeed. And it's not like One Punch Man, where they're just making some kind of commentary about an overpowered character, where they're playing it off for laughs and all of the major conflict in his life is just him being him. It's all emotional conflict for Saitama, and that's what makes it fun, but they're not going for stupid fun here. They're trying to take the straight-edge Isekai route, where we're trying to survive with the problems that arise in this new world and make a life for ourselves here, while trying to find the mystery of how we got here. Like, I honestly cannot believe this. Why go for such a straight-edge storytelling style if you weren't going to have any kind of straight edge to any of this? If you had 7 copies of fucking Saitama land in the world, and they single-handedly decided to found the Council of Saitamas and took over, I'd believe it more and take it more seriously than this anime. There's just no way to take it seriously, but it wants to be taken seriously. Look, we've got serious social problems. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You've made your people too powerful. I don't believe you have problems. But on from him, we have Mr. Politics. This man's overpowered in his just sheer emotional understanding and seemingly having the magic tongue that everyone can just immediately believe what he says, and he'll just convince everyone to do what he says. Supposedly he was, as a high schooler, elected as Hold on, I'm trying to get this out. He was elected as Prime Minister of Japan. And he's heterochromic too, because of course he is. He's a pretty boy with silver hair, and anime law dictates he must be heterochromic now. And he's so laughably trying to pretend to have, like, an emotional issue, or I'm not that good. Like, fucking Elf Girl falls in love with him, and I shit you not, this sequence took place in this order. She says that you're the kind of person who puts other people above your own self-interest, even if it means hurting yourself in the process. He insists that he's not the kind of good person she thinks he is. And I'm like, oh, kind of doing a wrong thing for the right reasons kind of guy. I like it. I mean, he did commission Science Lolly to start making nukes, and he launched one, so that wouldn't be out of place. But no. The justification of why he isn't someone who sacrifices his own well-being and happiness for what is the greater good was that his father was a politician who did corrupt things, and he turned in his father, sacrificing himself and his happiness for the greater good. So the reason you're not the person she thinks you are is because you're the person she thinks you are. Someone with the capability of thinking sat down at a desk, wrote that statement out as their story, and honestly thought they did a good job that day. I'm normally not all that mean to the writers, but this one just... How did you make it and not realize, like, even partway through making it, that you had yada-yada'd through all of their abilities and just decided that they win because they're super good at what they did. So good, in fact, that they just win. 5 down, 2 to go. Let's talk about Sword Lady. She defeated a giant super bear, whatever the fuck, when they first got there, because she's really good with the sword. Okay, good, I'm on board. She's really good with the sword, and modern day, well-practiced and regimented, healthy diet and exercise, along with a time-tested, much more time-tested than their own, martial art involving a superiorly made weapon would likely give her a serious edge. Alright, and I'll even accept some kind of overpoweredness, even though she's probably fighting things that are, like, way bigger than her. She's fighting with a sword. She's a super high school swordsman. You're gonna have to give her some leeway here. Of course, the journalist is also apparently a swordsman and a ninja who uses throwing stars and shit. I can't even. Why didn't they just name her Super High School Ninja? Why journalist? You already had one thing from the past, which was a swordsman, and you clearly had no care whether or not she actually did journalism, that is, publishing things. It was always more about her being investigative. Why didn't you make her a super high school spy since you had a super high school politician? Sorry, I'm off topic. And Sword Lady I was all set to accept until the one time when she actually became useful other than fighting a bear. When they needed to fire a missile to destroy some kind of spear thing, and for some reason, Science Lolly's mecha thing had a missile on it, but it didn't have a guidance system. She had built ICBMs and constructed a factory and a working semi and a nuclear reactor, but I guess she just didn't make a fucking working guidance system. Oh, well, you know, it would get distracted by the other heat sixers. It's heat-seeking? You don't have some kind of, like, locational targeting at this point? You have a mecha! Why didn't you make a drone that could just go straight up and laser the target and have the missile go from there? This isn't even like the mythical technology that you've been building up until now. Like, that's something we have now. A drone that can fly, a laser to designate target, and a missile that goes up and then comes down on laser designated target. Like, I don't understand. How is this new now? But Sword Lady decides that she's going to... Hold on, I'll get there. You're gonna like this. Sword Lady is going to use her super high school swordmanship powers to hold onto the missile and run with it while steering it physically herself, running up walls and shit. I couldn't make this up if I tried. I couldn't make that less believable if I tried. Why did you make it so these people couldn't have magic if it would be easier to just have them capable of doing magic? ReZero had a protagonist who had some kind of special power, and they let him do magic too. In fact, he accrued power slowly. He had character development. These people apparently stepped into the world possessing fucking superpowers. You can't claim that they're just super good at one thing if you're going to just make them not super good at that one thing, but literally super powered. She's not the world's greatest swordsman because she has great skill or anything. She's the world's greatest swordsman because she can run at the speed of a fucking missile. And it's okay because she's not just a great runner. After getting there, the fire demon reaches for the missile and it's gonna shoot flames at it, blow it up before it gets to the spear they're trying to destroy. So she fucking Asuno Yoichi goddamn hurricane wind style jutsu slashes her sword through the air, and the shockwave blows out the hyper intense flames of a fucking like inferno demon shit. She's using fucking wind style jutsu. What the shit is this? But the one that pissed me off the most egregious one, the one I cannot get over, the fucking doctor. Yes, she used modern medical techniques to perform a risky surgery and save someone's life once. Okay, that man's dying of an infection. You did it on the fucking ground. But okay, antibiotics, I guess you used your medical badge and your fucking diploma and your sheer force of medical will to prevent any contaminant from getting into an open wound in the fucking sticks after a massive battle that kicked up all sorts of dirt in the wide open air in the forest. Sure. Okay. I already don't believe you. That's not a matter of your skill, that's a matter of your location. The greatest neurosurgeon in the world cannot do dick all if he has no tools. Put the greatest neurosurgeon in the world in the middle of an island with nothing but a coconut and some guy with a brain tumor, and the guy with the brain tumor's gonna die. It doesn't matter how good you are at something if you have no tools. I am the world's greatest violinist. Cool, here's a desert island. We'll come back in a bit and we want you to play something amazing. They can't build a violin. The world's greatest violinist does not know how to make a violin. The tools and the environment have screwed your violinist, as they would have this doctor. But of course, she's supposedly a good guy despite being a morally fucked up person who wants to destroy God by making people good people. No, forcefully. But it's okay, we're getting to that. First, she decided to be Dr. Stone, only she cheated by having a wizard help her speed up the process in order to make a sulfa drug as an antibiotic to cure something, while the local witch doctors wanted to use opium. But she corners and beats up these people, and oh, it's just so great. She throws a fucking needle from across the room, hitting an acupuncture point in his chest or his head, or I don't fucking care where, that paralyzes him so he can't move. That's not how acupuncture works. In fact, there's a lot of question as to whether or not acupuncture even works. So she's fighting the pseudoscience of opiums with the questionable medical practice of acupuncture. Not only that, but as a doctor, she naturally has the ability to perfectly throw, with the exact amount of force needed, a needle from across the room with pinpoint accuracy. So I guess she's the super high school pseudoscientist, pseudo-doctor, super high school doctor, and super high school needle-throwing expert, as well as super high school amazing luck bitch, because she can have her patient survive in the fucking woods after surgery. But then, she's going to make this evil opium dealer a good person. I absolutely flipped my shit when I watched this part. He's dancing around in the next scene, all flowery and happy, and oh, I love to help out, I'm a good person. Like, the most ridiculously flowery good person you could ever possibly imagine, to the point where he's obviously been damaged in some way. And who did the damage? It was her! You see, on the floor of his, maybe it wasn't opium, maybe it was some other drug. Whatever, I'm gonna call it opium. It was some kind of drug that they thought was medicine, but was actually going to kill people. Apparently, she pinned him down after paralyzing him, sawed his head off, no anesthetic, with a fucking wood saw. So I guess she's taking about 1/4 of an inch off of his skull's height with that, and proceeded to perform neurosurgery on him with no tools on the floor of a fucking opium shack. There's like 8 things in that sentence that made no sense. Let's go through them. First, acupuncture. Second, throwing needles. Third, sawing someone's head off without anesthetic with a wood saw, and even sawing someone's head off with a wood saw and them somehow surviving the massive amount of tiny filaments of and shards of skull that are now falling into their fucking brain. There's a reason they use incredibly fine saws when doing brain surgery, because it needs to be an incredibly fine powder, or else it's going to do damage in there. Then she performed neurosurgery without any kind of major neurosurgery tools. She used that neurosurgery to rewire his brain, something that we don't think we could accurately do now. We don't think we'll accurately be able to do it very far in the future. And it honestly would be kind of a crapshoot as to what you got out of that either way. The entire idea that she was rewiring someone's brain is not only a massive moral concern that means that she is not a moral person. Oh, but it's to make him a good person, because she doesn't believe that God can do it. She wants to defeat God by making everyone good through this. You're literally taking away people's free will to decide what is good and bad in their mind and manipulate their personality as such. It is the most amoral, most horrible thing I've ever seen a character do. This is not a hero. That's the work of an actual villain. Even if your intent is good, you are applying your subjective idea of good and bad universally across people and removing their ability to choose. You are robbing them of sentience. If you're counting, that's 5 reasons so far. Next, he survived this without infection. Not only did he survive that without infection, he survived it. No, just surviving it. Listing that separately. She did this on the floor of an opium shack. Now that should be 8 if I'm counting correctly, but I'll double check when I go back and edit it. But just in case, I'll add a few more. She did that on the floor of an opium shack. She performed neurosurgery without infection on the floor of an opium shack. No matter how powerful you make your primary antagonist out to be, I can't feel threat here. You spent too long making these people stupidly powerful. And I don't have a gauge. I don't know how good they are. I don't know what their skill levels are. I don't know what their skills are, because they'll just make up a new one. Normally you'd imagine that their job title would set where their skills lie, but apparently their fucking doctor is an expert at throwing needles, their journalist is an expert ninjutsu fucking magic wizard, their magician or illusionist is actually a wizard, their sword master can perform the fucking Rasen Shuriken slash, Nothing about these characters has given me any reason to believe that they couldn't just magically pull another ability out of their ass. Next thing you know, they're going to corner the politician dude, and he's going to literally use his words of power to use the fucking dragon shouts to rend his enemies incapable of disagreeing. There's no stakes. There's no limits. I have no investment. This is how you do, like, every single section of your writing wrong. Everyone should know about this anime and do exactly the opposite of absolutely everything that was done in it. Normally I'd say be entertainingly angry in the comments if you disagree with me, but fuck that shit. If you thought that this was well written and these weren't ridiculous characters or that their abilities made sense, you're wrong. You're just flat out wrong. I'll entertain the idea though. If you really have a good argument, feel free to comment. In fact, comment anyway because the algorithm really likes it. Anyone who sees it, comment anything. Comment your favorite cryptic word that could also be a sex position. I don't care. And subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. You can always undo it when you get sick of me. Follow Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Have a good one, folks. And if you watch this show, you're going to be angry, so you might as well be entertainingly angry.